After the defeat of Azmo, Roshi and Kami invited him up to the lookout to train alongside them. While Azmo might have been reluctant to do so, he didn't have a grudge against them, so he decided to. After all, he doesn't want revenge against them, so training with them can only be a benefit for him, especially since that life of peace Roshi talked about didn't sound too bad. Regardless, once they arrive at the lookout, Kami would deem that Roshi is now fit to be made the Guardian of Earth. Since he is now pure of heart and he has shown that he can protect the Earth if he is needed to, Kami transfers the guardianship to him. While we have seen someone else become the Guardian of Earth, we've never seen how one Guardian transfers guardianship to another person. Unfortunately, this means I'm not able to go into much detail about how Kami makes Roshi the next Guardian. Though now that Kami is no longer the Guardian, he isn't sure what to do anymore. He has been the Guardian for close to 300 years, so it would take him a while to readjust to regular life. However, Roshi would be more than willing to let Kami continue to stay on the lookout, so Kami would still be there for guidance if Roshi ever needed it. There would be times Kami wouldn't help too much though, since he would think Roshi would need to figure out some things on his own, like how Kami had to. After all, Roshi being able to come up with solutions for issues on his own would help show to Kami that he made the right choice of who the next Guardian should be. We don't know if Roshi would have to stop being the Turtle Hermit now that he is the Guardian, but it's possible that he could have to. As we've seen with Kami, the Guardian was unknown to the people of Earth. The Turtle Hermit, on the other hand, was at one point widely known by the public to be a great martial arts master. So that he can remain unknown as the Guardian, he might have to pass on the Turtle School to one of his students. Of course, this means that the options are Goku, Yamcha, and Krillin. If going by power alone, Goku would be the best option, but Roshi would probably take other things into consideration. He would want someone who can pass on the Turtle School fighting style the best, and while Goku does use it, he combined it with styles from his other masters. Then as for Yamcha, his style is mostly combined with his own style from when he was a bandit. So, Krillin's fighting style is the closest one to the Turtle School style, as he hasn't really combined it with anything else. He mainly just kept practicing in the Turtle School way after he originally trained with Roshi. He's also been staying at Kami House, so this makes it simple for Roshi to approach him about being the next Turtle Hermit. It's likely Krillin might be hesitant to take up this mantle, but after some reassuring from Roshi, he would agree to do so. As a gift from Roshi, since Krillin is now the next Turtle Hermit, Kami House would now be his. Then at Goku's house, he and Chi-Chi would have returned with Gohan after the tournament had ended. Since there isn't a known upcoming threat, Goku's training would be relaxed like how it normally was during this time. The main difference here is with Chi-Chi, since her interest in fighting was sparked again from the last tournament. So, when Goku starts training again, she would train with him as well. Not only would this allow her to get stronger, but her relationship with Goku would also be healthier than usual, so she wouldn't be strict when it comes to him fighting. As for Gohan, he likely wouldn't be training now until he was older, but Chi-Chi would allow him to train once he is old enough. At the very least, she and Goku would start to teach him the basics of martial arts. Regardless, this time of peace after the fight against Azmo would last for 2 years. In total, this means that it has now been 5 years since the 23rd World Martial Arts Tournament. Out in the field, a strange UFO crash landed, which caused a nearby farmer to go and investigate. Once he arrived, he seen that there was a space pod as an alien then exited it. Then once he tried to shoot this stranger, the bullet was grabbed and flicked back at the farmer, thus killing him. He then took off flying, as a scouter picked up on a high power level nearby. Piccolo was currently out in the wastelands training when he sensed someone coming towards him. Once this creature lands, he still mentions that Piccolo is no match for him, so Piccolo tries to blast him. This leaves him unscathed, and as he was about to attack Piccolo, his scouter picked up on other power levels. So, he took off towards them, as he was searching for someone named Kakarot. Meanwhile, at Kami House, Roshi and Azmo were visiting Krillin. Bulma then arrived and brought tea cakes as a present for them. After briefly catching up with them, they are interrupted by the arrival of Goku, Chi-Chi, and Gohan. Since they've already met Gohan at the last tournament, none of them would be surprised about Goku having a kid. Instead, Goku would be the one that's surprised this time around, since when he hears about Krillin being the new leader of the Turtle School, that would be a shock to him, as he never expected Roshi to pass it on. So, Roshi would explain to them how he chose to pass it on so that he could become the Guardian of Earth. After some small talk, Goku interrupts it as he notices a power level coming towards them. This is when the alien from earlier arrives at Kami House, though he then begins talking about someone named Kakarot and how they were supposed to eliminate the Earthlings. They didn't know what he was talking about, so Krillin tried to get him to leave, which is when the alien then used his tail to send Krillin flying into Kami House. Goku still tries to ask the stranger who he is, and after he asks if Goku damaged his head, Roshi explains to him the story that Grandpa Gohan told him about Goku injuring his head. This alien then mentions that they are alien warriors called Saiyans, and that he is Goku's older brother, Raditz. He then started to explain that Goku's birth name is Kakarot, along with explaining what the Saiyans did and how they would transform during a full moon, which is when he realizes that Goku no longer has a tail. He then goes on to explain how their home planet was destroyed by an asteroid, and he says that he was there to get Goku's help with taking over a planet. This is also when he mentions that including Goku, there are only 4 Saiyans left. Raditz had noticed Gohan hiding behind Chi-Chi, and since he has a tail, he figured out he is Goku's son. As he mentioned he was going to borrow Gohan, Goku threatened him not to come any closer. He then kneed Gohan in the stomach and grabbed Gohan, before telling Goku that if he wants to see his son alive, he will have to kill 100 humans by tomorrow. While this was going on, Piccolo was behind Kame House, listening in on what Raditz was telling all of them. Raditz then took off with Gohan, leaving the heroes behind to figure out what to do. Goku then tried calling for the flying Nimbus, but Roshi stopped him from flying off alone and without a plan. Once they start discussing a plan, Goku mentions that his tail would be his weakness, so they will use that to beat him. They then use the Dragon Radar to find his location since Gohan had the Dragon Ball on his hat. This is when Piccolo reveals himself, as he says that they don't have a chance against Raditz. When he suggests joining up with Goku to fight Raditz, he agrees to. However, Chi-Chi, Roshi, Azmo, and Krillin tell him that they are going as well. Since Gohan was taken in this angered Chi-Chi, she decided to try her best in this fight as well. Krillin decided to go help since he didn't want to disappoint Roshi, especially after he was just chosen to be Roshi's successor. Something to mention is that Roshi probably would have had to swallow his pride and learn how to fly while training with Kami, so that he could get around the world faster. So, when they all prepare to go after Raditz, he doesn't have a problem flying with them. This would be a good time to mention how strong they are. Roshi and Azmo are equal in power, them having a power level of 370 when wearing their weighted clothing, and 480 when they aren't wearing their weighted clothing. Goku and Piccolo's power levels are the same as normal, with them being 334 and 322 when weighted, and 416 and 408 without the weights, respectively. And Krillin's would be 206 and Chi-Chi's is 148. Meanwhile, when Raditz arrives back at his pod, he throws Gohan into it since he wouldn't stop crying. He then starts to notice a growing power level coming from his pod, but he is interrupted when the scouter picks up on everyone coming to take him on. Once they arrive, Goku, Piccolo, Azmo, and Roshi quickly take their weighted clothing off. Together, they would have a combined power level of 2,138. Raditz would still start the fight off by using his speed to individually hit them. This strategy does catch him off guard at first, but it doesn't work for long against them. When they team up against Raditz, it would be hard for him to take them on, as he would be overwhelmed since he was getting attacked by 6 different people. However, it wouldn't all be smooth sailing for the heroes, since in the brief gaps Raditz gets, he would use his strength to knock Roshi and Azmo away. Then while they were knocked away and recovering, he would be able to beat down the others. Then when he tries using his double Sunday, they just barely manage to dodge it. Then in the confusion of dodging it, he would hit Krillin away. As usual, one of Piccolo's arms was also blown off by this. Regardless, with some of them recovering, Raditz would start beating down on the others. During this time, Piccolo would have been trying to use a special beam cannon, but Raditz finding Chi-Chi and Goku would be distracting him at first, though his scouter would pick up on this, allowing him to dodge it, but just barely. However, it might have hit his arm even more than it did in the actual series since he was being attacked by 2 people. While it is gory to mention, old Dragon Ball was like that at times, but he would probably be missing part of his arm because of this. As he then went to finish them off, Goku grabbed his tail, so Piccolo started to charge another special beam cannon. The Raditz still tricks Goku into letting go by saying he'll leave this world if he does. Once he lets go, he starts to knock Goku around, though he is struggling more because of the injury he received to his arm earlier. Though as he is beating Goku down, an enraged Gohan breaks out of the Saiyan pod as he then headbutts Raditz in the chest. Before Gohan could run, Raditz was trying to attack Gohan, but Chi-Chi blasted him in the back to give time for Gohan to run away. Before he could finish off Chi-Chi, this is when the others got back up, so they would start their joint attack on Raditz again. With his sustained injuries starting to wear him down, they can start landing more hits on him. Though the Saiyan would still get some hits in, his hits are losing power as time goes on. Eventually, Raditz would get to a point where he could no longer move, like how Vegeta was in the Saiyan saga. Goku would try to argue for sparing him, but the decision would probably fall onto Roshi's shoulders since he is now the Guardian of Earth. With him seeing how Raditz tried to kill them, along with trying to kill a child, Roshi wouldn't take the chance on sparing him, so he would use his Kamehameha to mortally wound the now crippled Saiyan. However, before he dies, he would still mention how this information has been transmitted to his 2 partners in the depths of space, and that they will come there now, and they are even stronger than he is. After they ask how long it will take for them to get there, Raditz says it will take 1 year. The Goku and the others would say something along the lines of them being able to train and take them on. Raditz would laugh about this, so they wouldn't realize how outclassed they are, but he then passed away. In the depths of space, the 2 Saiyans would be discussing if they should go to Earth. Without them knowing about the Dragon Balls in this timeline, they wouldn't have as much motivation to go there. However, with Goku mentioning that he and the others could get strong enough to take them on, the Saiyans might take this as a challenge. Regardless, it would at least give them something interesting to do, since they took over the last planet they were on easily. They also discussed the power of Gohan, since the chance of someone else rivaling their power, let alone a hybrid, is also motivation for them to kill the Earthlings. So, they decide to head off towards Earth, as they didn't want to sleep for the trip there. Back on Earth, they were discussing how Raditz was able to find them so easily, which is when Piccolo points out the scouter he was wearing. While Bulma was messing with the scouter, the heroes discussed what they were going to do. Roshi would suggest that they should go up to the lookout to train with himself and Kami. The heroes would agree to this, but when it comes to Piccolo, he would be reluctant to do that. He was interested in Gohan's power, but he didn't want to see his other half, let alone get help from him. The Roshi might be able to convince him that since he is there as a guardian now, he wouldn't have to deal with Kami. Also, since he can't just take Gohan and leave since Chi-Chi and Goku are there to stop him, he reluctantly agrees. Before they go to the lookout, they would gather Yamcha, Tien, Shatsu, and Yajirobe to train as well. Once they all arrive, Roshi's promise to Piccolo would not last long, since Kami had other plans. He decided to take both Roshi and Goku to Otherworld to train with King Kai. Before they go, Roshi would convince Kami to allow Azmo to go as well, since he started down his own path of turning good, and spending more time with himself and Goku likely would help him out more. After they go to Otherworld, Kami would convince King Yama to allow him to go train with King Kai. So, after they are driven to Snake Way, Roshi, Azmo, and Goku would begin running it. Back on the lookout, the heroes would start training as per usual, except Chi-Chi and Gohan would be training with them. Piccolo would have tried training with them, but since they were having to follow Kami's instructions, he was easily getting fed up with it. It got to the point that he would stay on the other side of the lookout and train by himself. Eventually, Gohan would have noticed him, and he would have tried to talk to Piccolo, since he thought he needed a friend. Of course, Piccolo would still have his cold exterior at first, but eventually he would get used to the young boy coming around, so they would start training together. Though, Piccolo would eventually get completely fed up with Kami's training and decide to leave the lookout. Without telling Chi-Chi, Gohan tried to sneak away and leave with Piccolo to train, but she would have noticed this. However, since Chi-Chi isn't as strict in this timeline, she's more willing to let Gohan do what he wants to do. However, that doesn't mean she's just going to let Piccolo run off with Gohan. They can only go train together on the condition that she goes with them as well. He would reluctantly agree to this condition, since Piccolo wanted to help draw out the boy's power. When they start training, Piccolo would still be harsh in his methods, which Chi-Chi would disagree with this. They would bicker on how to train Gohan. Piccolo's side might win out, since he would mention with what he knows about Goku, his training started off with him being alone in the wilderness. Piccolo then goes to prove to both Gohan and Chi-Chi that the boy can handle it, as he then throws him at a mountain, which Gohan's rage allows him to blow it up. Chi-Chi would still be reluctant, but with Gohan saying he'd be fine doing it this way since it is like how his dad trained, she reluctantly allows this.